AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Hour 2 off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Passy Spazzali.
Oh, look what you made me do. Look what you made me do.
You so. And Mr. Toby Tom Play. All right. We're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Sean Salisbury's here in 1 hour from right now. Right now, though, head up to Norman, Oklahoma. Our buddy Eddie Radosevich, good enough to spend some time with us here. Sooner Scoop, as we kind of preview the SEC teams that are going to be making their way in the college football playoff. Every time I look at the screen and I see that picture, it triggers me every time. Yo, dude, how are you?
I am doing well. How are we, Matt? It's definitely, I guess, more positive than any of the other times that we've talked to one another. Oklahoma in a little bit better spot than they have been here as of late. How are we doing?
Well, Lane Kiffin is LSU's coach. So
I heard about that.
That in and of itself should be a sufficient answer for your question. I don't know what that necessarily is going to mean, but it is really entertaining. I'll put it to you that way.
I can definitely tell. It's been fun to watch from afar because I know that when we went through the coaching search, it's not always the easiest thing. And when you insert somebody like Lane Kiffin, get your popcorn ready. It's going to be fun.
Easy is not how I would describe it, Eddie, but it has been entertaining, and I'm not complaining, brother, because I'm gonna tell you what, everything is up, everything. I mean, the interest, the interest graph with has just been incredible. So I am not complaining at all. Business has been good. I would assume the same for you with the Sooners in the college football playoff. Put a bow on this season for OU at 10-2. Give me the flyover here for the Sooners to this point in the regular season, getting into the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you would have to backtrack all the way back to August when we talked before the beginning of the season, all the way back at SEC Media Day, and you kind of wondered what this year 4 was going to look like for Brent Venables. He was very much on the hot seat, very much, I think, in terms of a fan base that was growing a little bit weary, maybe even leery of if he was going to be able to do it. So I think that at the beginning of the season when you said, hey, if Oklahoma's going to have a good season, it was going to end in the college football playoff. You almost kind of said that tongue-in-cheek because you looked at the schedule just in general of the toughness level that was not just going to be in conference play, but you had that Michigan matchup in week 2, and you just kind of wondered, like, are they going to be able to do this? And even as late as the end of October, I think that there were some people that wondered what the direction of this thing was going to be after the home loss to Ole Miss, and for them to kind of rebound, get through the month of November, that's been referred to as Red November around Norman, to go 4-0, win in Knoxville, build a little bit of confidence, start finding ways to win, kind of back that up, coming out of a bye week with the win against Alabama down at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It kind of changed the narrative, the direction of the program, really, in year number 4 for Brent Venables. And you look up, and now they're 10-2, and they got a home date with Alabama again in the college football playoff. It's been largely a success. I think Oklahoma fans would probably put some parameters on that. They got to win on Friday night to get to the Rose Bowl and take on Indiana. But overall, it's been a step in the right direction. And what they've been able to do in the recruiting ranks in 2027 off to a fantastic start. It very much feels like things have kind of the waters have calmed, if you will, in Norman as we kind of look back at the beginning of what I think a lot of people feel like is the start of Brent Venables' tenure, if you will, here moving forward.
I want to get to the game on Friday in a second, but when would you say you knew that this team was good enough to be a college football playoff caliber team?
I think when they went down that 2-week stretch, and really it was a 3-week stretch because they had a bye week in between, but going to Knoxville and going to Tuscaloosa, I think that, after they lost to Ole Miss, it was basically, hey, you got to win out. You're already kind of somewhat in a playoff type, structure atmosphere for the final month of the season. And once they were able to get through that, you had the 2 home games against Missouri and LSU. It started to become a little bit more realistic. I think Oklahoma fans have always felt like, here through the course of the 2025 season, that they've had a defense that can play at that level. It was just, what are you going to get from this offense? And, it probably hasn't come together as picture perfectly as Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer hoped for, but talking to them on Monday in Norman in some college football playoff interview sessions, it seems like, it's almost kind of a point of, if you would have said at the beginning of the season they were going to get to the college football playoff, a lot of people probably would have thought that John Mateer was going to have the type of season that he would ultimately be in New York City. That certainly didn't happen, but I think because of the defense, you've been able to fall back on this idea that they've been able to kind of rebound themselves from what the offense hasn't been able to do, and it's because of a great defense and a special teams unit that might be one of the better units just from top to bottom, led by the Luke Rosa winner, Tate Sandell, that Oklahoma's had maybe a decade. So they've taken some massive, drastic steps, in certainly 2 of the 3 phases. And as, I guess, quote-unquote, as bad as Oklahoma's been offensively, it's been so much better than what Oklahoma fans were subjected to a year ago.
Why, Eddie Radosevich is with a Sooner Scoop, why has Oklahoma been able to beat Alabama the last 2 years?
It's kind of crazy, isn't it? I mean, I think the 24 season a year ago in Norman, that was out of nowhere. You can say what you want about Alabama, where they were at the end of the last season. It certainly didn't reflect, I think, what a lot of people thought of the Crimson Tide when Kalen DeBoer took over for Nick Saban, and they were just able to run the ball down their throat. This last time, the trip to Bryant-Denny about a month ago, it was really good defense, and they were able to cash in on 3 turnovers, turn that into 17 points, and were just able to make better, I think, cleaner plays at the end of the day. They were able to capitalize on some special teams gaffes by Alabama. They blocked a field goal. They were able to force a fumble on a punt return to turn that into 7 points. So they kind of, I think, just were able to I don't want to say out-scheme them, but they were able to outsmart them a little bit in terms of, getting off the field when they needed to, and then taking advantage of some miscues from Alabama, which, I think a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I don't know if Oklahoma has been able to do that. They were not able to find ways to win football games, and I think that was becoming kind of the biggest angst amongst Oklahoma fans, is the fact that they were in position to win so many of these games in the first 3 years of Brent's tenure, and they just weren't able to do it. So they've been able to get over that hump, and I think it's come with a lot of confidence in building off of those 2 road wins.
Eddie Radosevich is with a Sooner Scoop. Okay. In the NFL, whenever teams are in the same division, they play often, you rarely see the same game twice, right? Familiarity forces innovation and sort of changing. How might Friday be different than what we saw a month ago and then a year ago in Norman?
Yeah, that's kind of the big question mark. I think that, we've known the matchup for almost a week and a half now, and it's almost to the point where you've covered every angle and how this could be different. I think that Oklahoma is going to be really interesting to see what Brent Venables draws up defensively. They were able to put a lot of pressure on Ty Simpson the first time around. They should get R. Mason Thomas back. He's been practicing this week, had the quad injury at Tennessee that kept him out of the first, tilt down in Tuscaloosa. So I'm fascinated to see what Brent throws at Alabama defensively this time around. He's had some moderate success. He's looking to go 5-0 in rematches. He had 3 when he was here at Oklahoma his first time around as defense coordinator, then obviously matched up with Notre Dame twice in 2020 in the regular season at Clemson, and then obviously in the college football playoff. It's been drastic how much better the Oklahoma or just the defense, Brent Venables' defense, has been able to fare against those teams in those matchups. And I think that's kind of the sticking point for Oklahoma fans this time around is you walk out of Tuscaloosa, and it was one of the things that Oklahoma defensive players talked about here over the last week and a half is they did not play well in Tuscaloosa. They got the turnovers when they needed to. But for the most part, Ty Simpson and Josh Cuevas, the tight end, was able to really kind of make some headway against them, giving up almost 400 yards of total offense. But at the same time, they were able to get off the field. So I think that's kind of the sticking point for Oklahoma's coaching staff right now is they got out of Tuscaloosa with a win, but probably didn't have their A game. And I think it's going to be rather interesting to see, kind of what they're able to do. The kind of the crazy thing is as Oklahoma goes for the third win in 13 months against Oklahoma, it'd be 6 of the last 7. In 5 of those games, they've scored a defensive touchdown, which I don't know if that's just a coincidence or if maybe there's something to it that Oklahoma's been able to kind of pull off against Alabama.
If Oklahoma does win, and I would assume this will be a great environment. I mean, what are you anticipating Friday night? I saw they're canceling classes, right? So it's going to be a huge thing there in Norman. Yeah,
it's kind of weird. Oklahoma, their class schedule, they started a week late, so usually everybody's out by now. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, there were some finals. Scumbag professors having a 5 o'clock Friday final. That sounds like the worst disaster that you could ever sign up for. But
I'd drop that class.
Yeah, it's being billed as one of the biggest home games in the history of the program, and they've certainly had some big ones over at the stadium. As I'm looking over at it right now, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that everybody kind of has an idea of what to expect, but to truly kind of know what a playoff atmosphere, as storied as this program is, it's unprecedented territory. They've never hosted a playoff game here. So it's kind of exciting. I think for somebody that is, like myself, I've grown up some of the Oklahoma games, basically my entire life for the better part of the last 30-something years. There's some unknown, but I think a lot of excitement that centers around Friday night at 7 o'clock, and then you add in that it's the only game in the country. It's kind of a special marking point for Brent Venables and this coaching staff to be able to entertain.
Well, I will be yelling Boomer Sooner all the way from Baton Rouge because
we love it.
Well, I don't think there's anybody in the country that has more invested in Alabama losing every opportunity possible than me. So. Sure. I don't know what that means. I got to dress up with like a horse head or something like that, but I'll do something ridiculous if the Sooners manage to pull this one off, and I'm really pulling for it. Friday night, they're in Norman. That's the Sooners and the Crimson Tide for the 3rd time in 2 calendar years. Eddie Radosevich will be there. Soonerscoop.com at Eddie_Rado. Go give him a follow. We appreciate it as always, man. Thank you.
You bet. Anytime. Looking forward to it. And, I think that you, like, I would say a majority of the college football fan base will be pulling for Oklahoma, I think. I don't know who Notre Dame's pulling for, but it should be a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Forget those losers. Who cares who they're pulling for? They're out there. They're in Hawaii or something like that. They're in the Bahamas. They don't even care about what they think. Thanks, dude. I got to run. I'll see you.
You bet. See ya.
All right, that's Eddie Radosevich. We're brought to you by Shop Bills Tire and Auto Service. ShopBillsTire.com. I was over at the parish office today. Terrio was leaving, heading to Shop Bills. Because Houston Terrio got a nail in his tire. And Houston Terrio is skiing on semester break. And so he went skiing. And so Ryan was there to take his kid's truck to Shawbills to get the tire fixed. Hey, but look, tell you all the time, they'll repair your tire for free. It's you buy tires at Shawbills for the life of the tires, they'll repair for free. No questions asked. It's just one of the things that Mr. Charlie said 60 years ago. It's the right thing to do, the right way to treat people. So you can always take it to Shawbills. Name brand tires at wholesale prices. And, of course, whatever type of service you may need for your vehicle. If you're heading out of town for Christmas, make sure before you do, you bring it to Shawbills for the oil change, the tire rotation, check engine lights on. As a matter of fact, Erica was telling me her brakes are squeaking. Probably got to bring her vehicle into Shawbills. ShawBillsTire.com to schedule service, shop tires. It's all there. ShawBillsTire.com. Shawbills, where we keep you rolling. I appreciate Eddie for being here. If you missed it yesterday, our buddy Mark Heim was here to preview that game from the Alabama side. The next 2 days, we'll take a look at Texas A&M Miami and Ole Miss against Tulane. So we'll preview those SEC teams in the college football playoff in the next couple of days as we lead you to Friday's start of the college football playoff. Let me knock out a quick break. Bottom of this hour, Whit Weeks was on Gordon McKernan's podcast and talked about his draft decision. We'll get to that in about 15 minutes. When we come back, though, Saints PFF grades are out for the win over the Panthers. One very encouraging trend. We'll talk about it next on AFR.
AFR.
You've heard me talk about Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, and yes, they can help men with ED, and yes, they specialize in hormone replacement therapy, lowest prices, never any contracts, but they also have peptides. And peptides are something that if you're not familiar with what peptides are, you need to educate yourself, because peptides can help you live a better, fuller, healthier life. These are non-pharmaceutical options that can help with almost anything that you're dealing with. Of course, many people know about GLP-1s. Those are the weight loss shots, right? Well, those are peptides. Well, so is BPC 157, Body Protection Compound 157. You've heard me talk about. It's derived from gastric juice, so it actually helps people with gut health issues. It can also help with tissue repair, muscle issues, or injuries and things like that. But they also have peptides for things like anxiety and brain fog and energy and for muscle growth and building. You got to learn more. YourGoodwood.com.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
She says she's got a dream, and I ask what it is. She wants a little farm and a yard full of kids, and one more teeny weeny ride before I take her home. She thinks my tractor's sexy. It really turns.
Hey, remember, it's not too late to get by any of the Sunshine locations. You can pick up John Deere tractor toys for the kiddos for Christmas, or for you if you're into tractor toys. Which are actually pretty awesome. And we have like a to-scale model of a tractor here. Cassie, can you go what? The to-scale model of a tractor right there on the set. You might need that one. Well, that doesn't matter. Also, they got like a really fun little tractor toy that makes noise, everything. Drew has one. He loves it. And they have like the Power Wheels tractors as well, the John Deere tractors that the kids can drive around if you love that sort of thing. So Christmas sale, 10% off all John Deere toys. That includes the ride-on toys and the bikes. So John Deere bikes, the John Deere ride-on toys, and then like the little model tractors as well. At any of the Sunshine locations, 10% off right now on their Christmas sale. So get on by any of the Sunshine locations, sunnyquip.com, sunnyquip.com. Saints beat the Panthers on Sunday for their second consecutive win, fourth of the season. And we always like to take a peek at what the folks over at Pro Football Focus say after these games. And the qualifier I always give with PFF is that it is a metric. It's not the metric. It's just something to consider. A lot of times we don't need metrics like this because we can look at how the game plays out, and you can see productivity from tackles from defensive players, or receiving yards from receivers, or passing yards. Yeah, there's some things that are just, we have metrics that make sense. But there's a lot of times, though, where what's happening away from the ball, PFF is good to kind of illustrate what some of these things are. So I always like to look at, the tops and the bottoms, offense and defense. And, when you look offensively, the thing that stands out the most, when you look at your top players on the offensive side, Devon Vele had an 89, Tyler Shuck an 80.6, Kelvin Banks a 76.5, then Chris Olave was fourth, followed by Cesar Ruiz, God bless. It was a 68.8, which is not a great grade, but he was the fifth highest rated player on offense. But think about that. Vele, Shuck, Banks, your top three players, all young players. Now, Vele is in his second year, but his first year with the Saints. Shuck's a rookie, Banks is a rookie. So your top three players offensively were young guys. If you go to the bottom, Mason Tipton was your lowest graded offensive player, Foster Morrow, and then this is where the problem comes in, right? Luke Fortner, Taliesin Fuaga, Dylan Radens, Raduns. And a gigantic issue that you had offensively was the penalties. You had 10 penalties, and 9 of them were on your offensive line. Banks committed 3, Fuaga committed 3, Fortner committed 2, Raduns committed 1. So all of your guys, like I look at Kelvin Banks with an overall grade of 76.5 on a day where he committed 3 penalties. Think about what his grade would have been had he not had the penalties. But it just continues to illustrate the issues that you have on the offensive line. And maybe the most disappointing part of this is because of all of the investment you've made in the offensive line in the draft or the line of scrimmage. I even say the same about defensively. Like Brian Brzee was one of your 5 lowest graded defensive players. And you keep making this investment into the line of scrimmage in the draft, and it's just not paying off for you. So the fact that offensively your young skill guys graded so highly and your offensive line was so bad, I think that speaks to the job that Tyler Shuck did. So some of this is validating the eye test, right? It speaks to the job that Tyler Shuck did leading this offense, even though your line stinks. He got sacked 5 times. Your line committed 9 penalties. Your line was bad. You couldn't run the football, 25 carries for 80 yards. Like, your line is very bad. It stinks that you made the investment in draft capital in those guys, and they're not any good. But the fact that you're able to win the game and your quarterback elevated is encouraging. Now, the other part, defensively, you flip it, and you're going to see another trend here. Your top-graded player defensively was Cameron Jordan, who, what a bounce-back season for Cam. I mean, after seeing his snap count, look, he only played 25 defensive snaps in the game, 25 of the 57. So they are playing Cam Jordan on roughly half the defensive snaps, but he's maximizing his effort in those 25, 30 snaps a game, and it's allowing him to be productive, which is great to see. But after Cam, Jonas Sanker was next. Demario Davis, who's incredible. Sugarwater McKinstry was 4th. Credit where it's due. And then Quincy Riley, and then Jordan Howden. So your young defenders in the secondary, Sanker, McKinstry, Riley, Howden, were all right there at the top of the grades defensively against Carolina, which was really encouraging. But again, notice the omission is you didn't see any of your young players across the defensive front. Your bottom 5, Danny Stutzman, Nathan Shepard, Alontae Taylor, Devon Gottschall, Carl Granderson, then Brian Brzee right there as well. So the big takeaway is pretty obvious. You've invested tons of draft capital in the line of scrimmage. You're not very good at the line of scrimmage on either side, at least not with your young guys. Your secondary and your skill guys among your young players are playing really well. So my big takeaway, the thing that I've looked for this year, as we've said from the very beginning of the season, is where are the cornerstone pieces you feel like you can build around? Well, in this final month of the season, hopefully those continue to reveal themselves. Tyler Shuck seems like a pretty safe bet going into next year. He's going to be your starting quarterback. Like, you're not using a first-round pick on a quarterback. It's a pretty safe bet as of this point. Certainly, you'd love to add a playmaking receiver, but maybe what this is illustrating is don't go in the draft looking for an offensive lineman. How about you go into free agency and spend on a young veteran offensive lineman? Someone who's a proven starting caliber offensive lineman who's heading into free agency, who can look at a young quarterback, a team with some potential upside that you actually have the money to spend and you can go be competitive and bring someone in there. You get Eric McCoy back next year. You feel like you've got your bookend tackles. How about you go spend money on one of the better guards in free agency this year and maybe put that person there next to between Kelvin Banks and Eric McCoy, and see if you can't solidify the left side of your line, and then hope Cesar Salad just doesn't be the worst offensive guard in the NFL. Maybe you can solidify yourself that way. That's going to be fascinating. Then defensively, maybe what we're seeing here is while you may not have a true elite corner, Quincy Riley is playing well, and Kool-Aid. I mean, I think these are starting caliber players in the NFL. They're just not elite starting caliber players in the NFL. Like, I don't think you trust either one of those guys right now to go lock down a true number one receiver that you're going to run up on in a given Sunday. But can they handle somebody's number 2 or 3, or play the nickel? Yeah. So maybe that you're basically identifying what are going to be your needs in this offseason. So maybe with your first overall pick, your first round pick, you're looking at a cornerback. I mean, we're all certainly partial to Mansour Delane, but he may be the best cornerback in this draft. And if the Saints are picking somewhere around 9 or 10 and that makes sense, great. Go get you a lockdown, true number 1 cornerback. So then you could have some combination of whoever your first round pick is with Kool-Aid and Quincy Riley, and you feel like maybe you've got your secondary built there a little bit. So a lot of that's what's revealing itself right now, and we'll see what the Saints can do here in these final trio of games, winnable games with the Jets, the Titans, and the Falcons, and an opportunity for more players to continue getting more reps and developing to see what you're going to be looking at, not only in free agency, but in the NFL draft. So quick look at PFF and how they saw the Saints win over the Panthers. All right, it's After Further Review. We are brought to you by First South Farm Credit. You know, on a day like this where we're sponsored by Sunshine, of course, so many farmers, people in agriculture who use Sunshine know also about First South Farm Credit because, listen, First South Farm Credit's been first in agriculture for more than a century now. If you're a farmer and you need that acreage, whether it's you're a cattle farmer or if it's sugarcane or whatever it may be, First South Farm Credit can help you buy that land. And they can also help you finance your farm equipment. FirstSouthLand.com, FirstSouthLand.com. Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. But it's so much more than just agriculture. So much of their business are people who want that recreational property, the hunting property, or you want to explore that rural lifestyle. You want to maybe buy that acreage where you can build your family's dream home on 100 acres. Well, First South Farm Credit makes it happen for people in Louisiana every single day. But with more than 40 branches in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, they can help you buy land anywhere in the lower 48. So it doesn't matter if you want to buy land, you want to buy a winery in Northern California, you want to buy a dude ranch in Montana, or you want 100 acres in Mississippi for your hunting property. First South Farm Credit can help you do that. FirstSouthLand.com, FirstSouthLand.com. All right, y'all. It is After Further Review, and we're glad to have you hanging out with us here. We got Sean Salisbury in 30 minutes. I do want to follow up with Sean, as we do every week here. We talk a lot of quarterbacks. There's two things in particular that I want to talk about with Sean. Of course, Tyler Shuck's continued advancement, development, progress. But I also want to talk to Sean about DJ Lagway. Because LSU is going to be in the transfer portal for a quarterback. Lagway is entering the transfer portal. And some of the conversations I've had in the last 24 hours that Lane Kiffin thinks very highly of DJ Lagway. So I know you and I have seen Lagway for 2 years really struggle at Florida. But there's this sort of question of, okay, if Lane Kiffin gets his hand on Lagway and has that ball of clay to mold, what could that look like? So we'll ask Sean Salisbury his thoughts. And he's known Lagway since he was in high school in Texas. So want to get into that conversation here in about half an hour when Sean's with us. All right, it's After Further Review. Speaking of the Tigers and who's going to be here next year, maybe no bigger decision, certainly not defensively, than Whit Weeks. Will he come back? Whit Weeks was a guest on Gordon McKernan's podcast. We'll let you hear what the junior linebacker had to say. That's next on AFR.
AFR.
We're brought to you by the Watermark and the Renaissance. Watermark downtown, Renaissance Southtown, two amazing hotel properties in Baton Rouge. The Watermark is Baton Rouge's premier hotel property in downtown Baton Rouge on 3rd Street, the old Louisiana National Bank building. Have you been to Watermark Baton Rouge yet? Have you been to Watermark Baton Rouge yet? If you've not yet been, you've got to carve out some time. Look, the holidays are here. Maybe you got a day off of work. It's worth just spending some time in downtown Baton Rouge. If you haven't hung out in downtown Baton Rouge, listen, if you're eating at the Gregory, it's always complimentary valet parking too. So you can pull right up. So if you're worried about parking downtown, don't. Just pull right up in front of the Watermark. Valet will take your car. Go have lunch or go have dinner at the Gregory. Just sit in the lobby bar and have a cocktail, a glass of wine. Just people watch a little bit. Explore that historical building in downtown Baton Rouge. Walking distance from restaurants and shops and bars and some of the historical sites in downtown. It's Watermark Baton Rouge. Check it out today. It's Watermark Baton Rouge.
After Further Review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
It's the way it's pulling while we're tilling up the land. She's even kind of crazy about my farmer's tan.
Hey, remember, you can always email us, tweet us, or text us, 225-396-4400, 396-4400, 396-4400. Lots of ways you can get involved in the show, so feel free to do that. If you've got a question or comment you want to jump aboard, feel free to do that. A gigantic part of what Lane Kiffin and Billy Glasscock have to figure out right now before the transfer portal window opens on January the 2nd, it's sort of this tiered approach to building the roster. First of all, they had to get past the December signing period, right? So how many of those commitments were going to sign? How many were they going to honor those offers? How many guys at other schools did they want to bring in? For example, Ryan Muret, the the offensive lineman from Miami who had been committed to Ole Miss, flipped to LSU and signed. So players like that. So you sign your class of 14. And then you can look at your 85-man roster and know which players are not going to be back because they're out of eligibility. And then you're doing roster evaluations right now of guys that are going into the transfer portal and who you're hoping come back and who you can recruit to retain on the roster. It's interesting. We had Juwan Johnson on the show yesterday, and he's announced his intention to go in the portal. But as of Monday, said he still hasn't spoken to Lane Kiffin or anyone on the new staff yet. So I can certainly appreciate very much Kiffin and the new staff allowing the current staff to get through this season. Right? I mean, they still have a bowl game to play, and they're preparing for it right now. So I very much understand and can appreciate them having a fine line to walk here. It's a delicate balance where you need to get cracking on your roster for next year because the calendar is so screwed up, but you have a current roster and coaching staff that's preparing for a bowl game, so you don't want to overstep there. So it's going to get to a point very likely quickly after LSU plays the bowl game that they'll have a lot of these meetings before the portal opens on Jan 2, so they kind of have a sense of what guys are going to do, who's going pro, who would like to return, who has the opportunity to return, who's going in the portal, and we'll know more and more as that comes along. But, I would say that if you asked me who are the most important guys with a decision to make on either side of the ball, like I'm not talking about Mansour Delane, like he's got extra year of eligibility, he's going pro, right? That's a foregone conclusion. I would say offensively, it's probably Braylon Moore, who is your best offensive lineman this year. And he has another year of eligibility if he wants it. And it would be amazing at that position group, which was so bad this year, if you could start by knowing your center, your cornerstone, is back. So that would be my biggest push offensively, would be get Braylon Moore back. Defensively, this may sound obvious, but it's Whit Weeks. Whit Weeks a year ago was second in the nation in tackles. He was awesome. And he was a preseason first-team All-American this year. And he got hurt. He re-injured that ankle against Ole Miss, had a week off, played on it against South Carolina, knew something wasn't right, and then basically saw limited action in 2 games the rest of the way. A little more than a dozen snaps against Western Kentucky, about 30 snaps against Oklahoma, and that was it. He's not going to play in the bowl game. So this may feel like a pretty obvious answer for Whit Weeks. Come get healthy, come back, play another year, get a bunch of NIL money, prove you're healthy, improve your draft stock. But decisions are never really that cut and dried. So Whit Weeks was a guest on the Get Gordon podcast. Of course, we had a great partnership here with Gordon McKernan. And Gordon's got a podcast studio they call The Garage in Baton Rouge. Pretty awesome. He lets anybody use it who wants. Seriously, totally free of charge. And all 3 Weeks brothers were simultaneously guests on the podcast. And Whit was asked about his decision about his future. Here's what he said.
That's the $1 million question right now. Yeah. I wish I knew. I really do wish I knew. That's what I'm trying to figure that out right now.
You got Kiffin coming over here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's probably got to ask you to come back.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've had those conversations already, so now it's just, but I'm taking all the outside factors out of it and really making the decision for myself because I have to, because some people telling me to leave, some people telling me to stay, but at the end of the day, it's really just, it's what's the best decision for Whit.
I think these decisions have gotten so much more clouded. So he's non-committal there. Obviously, didn't answer the question. Doesn't know yet. But for a long time, guys were just they knew they were coming to school for 3 years and then they were gone. And part of that was because when you look at the NFL Players Association and how rookie deals are capped now since the 2011 collective bargaining agreement, rookie deals are capped, so guys want to get to the NFL and start their clock because you're not going to make your money until your second contract. Like, if you go look at the guaranteed money between, say, a third-round pick and a seventh-round pick, it's kind of indiscriminate. It's not significant enough to really matter. Now, if you have the opportunity to be a first-round pick, now you could be talking about a signing bonus in the 8 figures, and that can be certainly worth it. But for so many guys, it was just about get to the league and start your clock to the second contract. Well, now you can actually maximize financial value on the front end because of NIL and rev share and all that stuff. So Whit Weeks has to sort of balance, where can he make more money next year? Well, the answer, if he's going to be an early day 3 pick, or late day 2, early day 3 pick, he would stand to make more money coming back to LSU for his senior season, and then getting healthy and then increasing his draft stock and all that sort of stuff, potentially being a first-round pick. Also runs the risk of injury. That's always certainly a possibility. Now, the other part of this that I think is very significant is Blake Baker, because not only is that the defensive coordinator, so you maintain consistency for Whit Weeks, but it's also his position coach, being that he's a linebacker. And this is what Whit said about retaining Baker.
I'm excited, and I think the biggest thing that they were able to do is bring Coach Baker back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge for us playing defense. That is the biggest thing that I think they've done all offseason.
Well, not only that, you would have had Peoples and others coaches that probably would have followed him.
Well, yeah, the whole defensive staff would have been gone, and then you're starting the whole team from scratch. That's why I think the best thing that we did was bring him back, because now you have that foundation.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do get rid of him, you're bringing in a whole new staff, and you're starting from zero on offense and defense.
Yeah. And we need to enjoy him all we can, because
it certainly sounds like that made Whit's. It was certainly a giant pillar in the column, or a check mark in the column of Whit returning, right? If he were gone, if Baker were gone and you were starting over with a whole new defensive staff, it certainly would have complicated this decision even further. And speaking of complex, of course, Whit is dating his coach's daughter, and he did talk about that.
I mean, whenever we started dating, but none of us would have ever thought that he would be the head coach at LSU. Never in a million years would we have thought that. So it is kind of weird. It is kind of weird seeing him in the building in the head coach's office, because I'm like, this dude's just my girlfriend's dad. And now he's the head coach for LSU. Yeah. It's like, wow. So it's kind of weird, seeing him as a coach, because I always just saw him as my girlfriend's dad.
If you look at what the defense will look like next year, I mean, you're losing, as far as snap counts, 6 of your top 7 guys. So getting Whit back, along with Devon Keys and Tylen Singleton, some of those young guys at linebacker, would be a major spot in the middle of that defense. And you could start to build around Pickett and Woodland at corner, and you move back to safety, where a guy like Spears and Cooley could be back there at safety. You got to rebuild your defensive front, but you do have some young talent like Don McKinley. But man, to have a potential All-American smack dab in the middle of your defense, it's like the whole thing in baseball. It's true in football as well. You want to be good up the middle. Catcher, middle infield, center field. Same thing. Center, middle linebacker, nose tackle, free safety. You want to be good right at the middle. And if you establish center with Braylon Moore and middle linebacker with Whit Weeks coming back, that would be major wins, as significant wins as Kiffin could possibly have as far as retention of the current roster. All right, it's after further review. Of course, when Whit was hurt, he was cared for by physicians over at Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU athletics. All the LSU Tigers, not only the football Tigers, but every sport, they trust their health care to the lake. OLOLRMC.com/LSU is the website where you can learn more about the Championship Health Partnership. You can go to the website, OLOLRMC.com/LSU. You can scroll down and you can learn more about that great Championship Health Partnership that they have together, a lot of the different features that they have. When you scroll down on the website, you can see a lot of the things that they offer there at Our Lady of the Lake, and many different ways that the Lake and LSU partner together. So you can log on to the website. You can find contact information there as well. But my goodness, if it's the Regional Medical Center right there on Essen, if it's the standalone Children's Hospital, if it's many of the Lake urgent care after-hours clinics as well, Our Lady of the Lake cares for not only the champions on the floor, on the court, on the diamond at LSU, but everyday champions like you and me in the community. It's Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together, we roar. All right, it's It's after further review. We'll knock out a break and wrap up hour number 2 when we come back. We used to do Tigers and the Pros. Sean Salisbury will be with us in about 15 minutes from right now. We always appreciate Sean. And Kuiper does have his latest big board out. So we'll tell you kind of what a projection looks like for a lot of these LSU guys that have draft decisions to make. We'll get to that here in about 45 minutes from right now. Stick around. Wrap up hour number 2 next.
AFR.
All right, y'all. We're counting the days now, okay? We are talking about 9 days away. 9 days. 9 days until the big guy, 8 days till the big guy comes down the chimney. And if you want to make sure that you have something under the tree for that gardener, that green thumb on your list, get on by Clegg's Nursery. That hard to buy for person on your list, Clegg's has great gift ideas. Outside the box gift ideas. Like, what about a citrus tree? Plant a citrus tree. That's something that can give enjoyment and beauty to your family, your home, literally for generations. Poinsettias are a great gift, great way to add some color inside your home, your office around the holidays as well. Maybe it's the Clegg's gift card. Maybe it's tuned wind chimes, which are a gorgeous accent piece for anybody's outdoor space. They got it all for you at Clegg's Nursery. So buy local, shop local, and tell them Matt sent you to Clegg's Nursery.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Well, she ain't into cars or pickup trucks, but if it runs like a deer, man, her eyes light up. She thinks my tractor.
Wrapping up hour number 2. Sean Salisbury again about 10 minutes from right now. Right now, Musso has Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, so yesterday during Tigers in the Pros, we told you about Devin White's 16 tackles on Sunday. Well, Raiders PR, the official PR account for the Raiders, they've added a whole other layer of intrigue to this, as has Ian Rappaport. Devin White, with those 16 tackles, now has 149 tackles on the year in 2025, making him one of just 5 players in Raiders history to record 140-plus tackles in a single season. Ian Rappaport notes as well that Devin White needs one more sack on the year. With one more sack, White would join Demario Davis as one of only 2 players since 2019 with 700-plus tackles and 25 sacks. Should be noted as well, the 149 tackles, it's a career high for Devin White, besting his 140 with Tampa Bay back in 2020. Just an awesome comeback for Devin White here in 2025 after struggling to end his time with Tampa Bay and obviously being picked up midseason by the Texans last year. On to Major League Baseball. Of course, everyone's looking at Alex Bregman. Where might he go? That's still up in the air. There's about 5 or 6 teams, depending on where you look, that are interested in Bregman. But Kylie McDaniel from ESPN, using all his numbers and know-how, projected the contract that Bregman might be up for. 5 years, $170 million. Could go to 6 years if you want to lower the value a little bit. His comp's Marcus Semien, who going into his 31 season, like Bregman is, signed 7 years, $175. They think that the $25 million that Semien got will definitely be bested by Bregman. That would also be an uptick from his deal he signed with the Red Sox, which was 3 years, $120 million with the club options. That's Tigers in the Pros.
Presented by Arco Power Systems, arco.com, arco.com, ARCCO, arco.com. Generac Industrial Generator Power. Own a business, commercial property, municipality, industrial facility. You need automatic power, standby power. Storm comes, power goes out. What do? We know what you do at your home. You got a Generac at your home. You need one for your business as well. That's what Arco does. This is not a generator for your house. This is an automatic standby generator for your business. Commercial, industrial size, industrial energy for your business. Grocery stores, universities, schools, convenience stores, banks, hospitals, everything. You need critical backup energy solutions. You need Arco Power Systems. And the great news is they are everywhere, y'all. Home base is right there on Airline Highway in Baton Rouge. It's incredible how big this business is. But they have offices north to Little Rock, east to Mobile, west to San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Austin, everywhere in between, all over Louisiana. So if you're a business, just draw a big old circle in the spots that I just said. You're a business, own a commercial building, you need a generator for your business, Arco Power Systems. ARCCO, arco.com, arco.com, arco.com. All right, y'all, it is After Further Review. Remember, you can always watch us on YouTube. We appreciate you for being there. If you are watching live on YouTube, smash that like button. You can watch on WBTR in Baton Rouge. You can listen on ESPN, Lafayette, Lake Charles, Alexandria, online on the web. We just appreciate you for being there. However, whenever, wherever you consume, we just appreciate you for being out there with us every single day. It is After Further Review, so we're going to knock out a quick break. We'll get you caught up on national headlines from SportsCenter. When we come back, Sean Salisbury is going to be with us. I love visiting with Sean every week, but there's two things in particular I really want to make sure that we hammer with Sean today. Obviously, we're going to talk about the continued growth from Tyler Shuck, but the other is LSU's portal targets at quarterback, namely DJ Lagway. We'll get to that next.
AFR.
Man, had a great meeting over today at Parish Construction and Roofing. Terrio and Tilly and Joe and our whole squad over there at Parish Construction and Roofing. You know, we handle every type of roof. Commercial, residential, slate, tile, TPO, everything. And it doesn't matter if it's a repair or replacement, no matter how big or small. We also do gutters. We fabricate our own metal. And we do soft wash. One of the really cool things that I want to make sure I remind y'all about is our soft wash crew. So earlier today, we do this not only for homes, but also for commercial places. So today, at the Louisiana Fallen Firefighters Memorial, our parish crews were out there soft washing that memorial. Beautiful spot, a tribute to the brave men and women who have died protecting us. And we had the opportunity today, our parish crew, to soft wash that to beautify it. We'd love to help you out. Go to parishbuilt.com.